It's been, for me, I've been involved in soccer since I was 8 years old, starting in Kitchener Soccer with the club there, and went through as a youth player. Eventually went on to a scholarship in the States and finished my education back at Wilfrid Laurier University, where I played with a lot of people that are now influential in the Canadian soccer world, including people like Mario Halleper, who's very influential locally. Went from that into the coaching realm and started coaching with a local team, Kitchener United. And we won the local league, and we were finished second in the provincial league at the time. And from there, made the jump to the Canadian Soccer League as an assistant coach and then as a head coach. And that was a time where it was the biggest league in Canada and the place where we were producing the most players. And players that came out of that league, like Alex Bunbury, Paul Petrocelito, Jason DeVos, Mark Watson, all went on to have really significant careers in Europe. And it was kind of the springboard to the next level. Unfortunately, that folded in '92, and I went in to coach the provincial team. And while I was coaching the provincial team, I had players like Dwayne Di Rosario, Paul Stalteri, who played for Werder Bremen in the Bundesliga and won the Bundesliga championship, and he played for Tottenham Hotspur in the Premier League. Dwayne obviously was a key player in MLS, and I think he was an MLS MVP. Players like Jason Bento were a part of that career, and at that time, they really didn't have a springboard to go on to the next level of play. And we just started a dialogue at that point about how do we get you from the level you're playing at into a level where you can excel. So my first foray into the agency business was with that group of players and trying to get them to Europe, and got Jason, Paul, and Dwayne over to Germany and then back into MLS leagues, and it just kind of grew out of that. And for me, I always wanted to be involved in football as a profession, and this was a way to get myself into the business side of the operation. It's really interesting. It's gone a little bit in cycles. I think in the old Canadian Soccer League, we produced a lot of local coaches, we produced a lot of local players, and there was a platform for Canadians to move on to another level. When that folded, that changed a little bit. There really wasn't that end goal. Our youth sport was a place for people to coach, and some people ended up going off to the States to try to find a way to make a living in soccer. But there was a void for a long time. So with that was the advent of some academy programs that popped up, and there was a lot of other things that went on. When MLS came into town, that was a key step forward. Toronto FC was not only for Canadian soccer, but for the MLS in full. TFC was the catalyst of how you should run a team and what the fan base should look like, how we should integrate players and all of that. So that was a turning point for the league. But in Canada, that spawned Montreal Impact and Vancouver Whitecaps coming into the league, and now that's spawned Canadian Professional League, the CPL, coming into town. So where for a long time we had no professional teams or one professional team, Toronto Lynx for a little while was an opportunity for some players. Now we have 11, and we have a place for a lot of young players to go and play. So that's been positive. I think the MLS has been great for the game on many levels. I'm not sure it's allowed many Canadian coaches the chance to get through to the top level. And that's one thing I think where maybe there's a little bit of a failing in that piece. But with the Canadian Premier League coming on board now, there's 8 teams in that league. 7 of them have Canadian coaches. Most of the staffs are Canadian. Most of the players are Canadian. Most of the management is Canadian. So it's giving us another platform like the CSL to develop talent at the management level, at the playing level, at the coaching level. And it's going to allow for us to create a more diverse coaching style. So rather than say this is our style as a country, teams in Quebec, they might want to play with a little flair. Teams in BC want to be a little bit more direct and aggressive. Toronto is more of a hybrid of a lot of things. And across the country, you'll see different styles of play that will evolve organically. And I think that's good for the game and been missing for a long time. I will start off as a person. I mean, anybody that knows Mario knows he's very direct. He's as honest a person as you're going to find, and somebody you can count on. So if he says he's going to do something, he's committed, he will do that. He's loyal. He's very strong-willed, competitive, and all of those core values that he has come across in the way he played and come across in the way he coaches and the way he runs a business. So every piece of what he's involved in is a mirror of how he is as an individual. And his core values are, exceptional, and that translates into how he operated as a player. So as a player, he was technically very gifted, read the game very well, tactically sharp. But I think what separated him from a lot of people was his desire, his competitiveness, his will to win and desire to win, and not accepting anything less of himself. Unfortunately, Mario had, at a young age, some serious knee injuries, which probably held him back from reaching the level that he was capable of reaching. But, anybody that knows him, he's still, if you play a game with him, he's playing it to win it. And you're not going to get an easy match. You're not going to ever get a rollover with him. So those core values of him as a player come through loud and clear. Technically, he's exceptional, and tactically was always an excellent player. So, any team that had him on had a very significant chance of winning, and any team that had him on was going to compete to win because he wouldn't allow other players not to do that. So his leadership by example and just by will of force, force of will, sorry, he was different than most players, and probably a great role model for young players to see what it takes to make it to the next level. As a coach, he's got a huge attention to detail, very good understanding of the game and how each piece connects to the next. A lot of coaches get into it and think that they run good drills and they're a good coach, but managing a game, understanding what's happening in the match, and being able to make what the significant adjustments and dealing with all of those things, he's tremendous. His attention to detail for young players, I think, is as good as anybody that I've seen anywhere, and that's globally. Like I've often said that if I had a group of 13 to 16-year-olds that were going to train to become pros, I would love to leave them with Mario to get through all of that foundational piece, which I think is his biggest strength and the thing that he can deliver best to players that want to get onto the next level. It's incredible. When you're looking around, Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, Guelph, just in this little area, there's so few players that have made it. And Mario's been influential in most of those players that have gone on to play at that next level. He's been integral to their development. So players like the Peyton boys, he's instilled training habits and mentality and commitment to excellence in those players. Some of the female players I know, like Shalina Zadorsky and Alyssa Lagonia, both women's national team players that came through elite athletes. Mario was working with Shalina when, I was as well, but going back to when she was 8 and 9 years old, and making sure that there was an attention to detail with her technical elements. And, physically she's grown into an immense athlete. But without that technical grounding, she's probably not where she is right now. Alyssa Lagonia, again, she was part of that program, elite athletes, and went on, was probably a late developer, but came into Laurier and then went on to the national team and then played pro from there. So he's been influential on both the men's and the women's side. And there's other players that we could mention that have gone on, but a lot of them would have to have they would put a lot of value in what they got from Mario in where they're at right now in their life. And even with KW United, we had a lot of players that went on and played pro out of that program. It was a program that was in the PDL, so we were competing against all the best professional development players in North America, and we were the champions. But Mario was a huge influence in that, and he was a huge influence in, players like Kenny Kralicki and Julian Boucher, and making it to the next level of play and being able to play in the MLS and succeed at that next level from a lot of the stuff that he worked on with them. Both of us at a young age decided that we were not interested in working, in an insurance company or for an oil company or doing something that was not football related, because, most of our waking hours were consumed with football, either playing, coaching, talking about it, watching it. And I think both of us made decisions very young to say that this is what I want to do for a living. And, when we did it initially, when we made those initial decisions, I got into coaching, and then we started a retail business together. A lot of people thought I was crazy, and didn't think it could work. And 30 years later, most of those people have come back to me and say, I wish I could be doing what you're doing. But it was really effectively down to a decision that we made at that point in time. And we both shared a passion for the sport and knew that that's, what we wanted to be involved in and how we wanted to proceed, finding a living out of that, but also doing a good job and trying to do things that are positive for the growth of the sport and for helping players move forward and developing players and coaches and just growing the game. And I think, he's been very influential, and locally he's, when you talk to anybody about football, Mario's name comes up as somebody you should go see, whether it be about your retail issues, whether it be about facility issues, whether it be about coaching, player development, whatever they may be, his name comes up on all of those levels. So a lot of what we do, both of us we've had our oars in many different things. And a lot of that was just survival, wanting to be involved in the game and survive to make a living. So you learn a lot about many, many different facets of the business of football, but it's also given us a good grounding to see how all of those things connect, how they work together, and how the game evolves. And you can see, where the flaws are with people coming in young businesses or young coaches. You can see some of the things where they have a very narrow focus. We're lucky, we've been able to be involved in a lot of things, and we have a much broader focus. So that's been, I think, a huge benefit to us, even though I don't think that was by design.